All right, Dervar, all yours.
Okie dokie. Well, welcome everybody to this week's developer podcast. Today we have Efrain and Robert with us. So, starting off, let's talk about Alcatraz as our favourite little subject. Efrain, would you like to take the floor for Alcatraz?
Recently, in the last week and a half, I pretty much switched over from Alcatraz to working on the new horde map for Half Moon Bay. Alcatraz is pretty much just a texture and dress up job from going forward. Dimitri's going to take over to help out with that for a bit whilst I work on Half Moon Bay. So for Half Moon Bay, got a nice fat map coming your way for co-op. It's a good size map. I mean, originally we started building this map, or thought of, conceptualized this map as part of, a pandemic map, a separate map from the Bay Area like we did with Calypso. And now that we've got co-op coming in, we just said, hey, you know what, why not turn it into a horde map? So I spent some time finishing up the layout for it. I had done the landscape a while back, ditched it for a bit to work on other more important parts of the project, and recently came back to it to revive it and turned it into like a better horde map than what we had with the test co-op map. I mean, the co-op map, I'm pretty sure a lot of you had a good time playing that, but it's just not that great. It was just kind of like a testing ground for what we were going to do for horde going forward. And I pretty much the time I spent on that was just improving it so that we can test co-op much better, because it was kind of like the original version of it was just kind of thrown together like whatever. There wasn't a whole lot of planning or thought put into it. And kind of the same with what I did for it, but I mean, I kind of try to get like a better layout going, block to kind of make it seem more of like a cityscape, give it more of a urban combat kind of feel. And that's kind of what you're going to get with Half Moon Bay. It's a coastal city, actually based on Half Moon Bay in California, which is on the Pacific side, opposite of the Bay Area. And so far this week, got all the building layouts done. The streets have been blocked in. In the next week, I'm going to be making more refinement to it by doing the detail work, getting in stoplights, fences, walls, streets, sidewalks, trees, all that great stuff, to make it look more and more like a city, as well as improving some of the pathing along the borders where players are not allowed to traverse, as far as like, putting blocking volumes along the mountains, the coastline, and setting up some sort of blocking volumes for the spawn pits, which are kind of like a new approach we're taking with this. I set up these spawn pits around the map where the infected will be coming out of. Players will not have access to these. It's kind of like a way of protecting the infected as they're spawning out, so that people can't camp these areas and cheat. Apart from that, we've also implemented like 3 more capture points. I guess like they're complemented by SOCs, but they also act as objectives for the horde. So the horde you'll have spawning into the map will be going after those capture points, like the armory where he's looking at right now. And then we also have a medical research center up on the hill. And of course, there's the main capture point in the city, which is amongst a few buildings there that you can kind of fortify yourself into. And then there's the communications relay located at the airport, right there. So you're definitely going to have like tons of infected coming at you from these, different locations, depending on where you decide to capture first. At the moment, yeah, I mean, the blockout as far as like placing buildings and trying to create interesting places to set up your bases and fortify yourself is done. I've yet to go back in there and add more paths coming down from the hills so that it's not so easy to defend the lanes coming down the hill. Like, I think most of the lanes I've got coming down are on main streets. So I'm going to have like side trails, like camping, hiking trails coming down the hillsides that you are pretty much not going to be able to keep too much track of. I mean, there's going to be so many paths to defend that you're going to have to kind of pick where you're going to, stand your ground and fight from. What else am I missing? Yeah, I mean, next 2 weeks is just cleanup, detail pass, and making it look better than it does right now, because right now it's just bare bones. I wanted to get the buildings in there, sort of like to create interesting areas for players to occupy, and that's been the bulk of my work in the last week and a half.
I mean, it's pretty exciting to see a larger horde map overall, because of the fact that it just expands the possibilities for people to build and make fancy new bases and sort of go out and explore, and honestly, it is very exciting to see an even bigger horde map. It really is.
Yeah, it's something we wanted to get out by the end of the month. It's just to have something better to play in, as opposed to the sort of fugly little test map that we have going on right now. But I mean, I look forward to doing more of these in the future, and especially adding more variations of buildings and whatnot, because it's I've been working with what we have, to kind of create an interesting level. I know that a lot of players might be like, "Oh, we've seen these buildings in other levels," and it's like, yeah, well, I mean, I also have to take time to make new buildings, which also takes time.
Yeah,
And
there's so much to work with.
there are a few I'm going to try to incorporate into the map as we progress into working on this, if I have time. But for the future, we definitely have plans to make more variations of buildings so that they don't, you don't see a lot of the same buildings in the maps going forward. But Half Moon Bay, we had to make some design changes, like make a downtown, like you see that. I mean, if you look at Half Moon Bay on Google Maps, it's not going to have that big downtown setting. It's really more of like a small town, but we wanted to make it more interesting. So I added like a downtown center, and then of course I have like the suburban areas, and I got this big ass high school that players can use probably as like a fortification as well. Just trying to add more interesting areas other than just suburban or urban combat. Setting up like these open spaces, like the airport. And then you have like the football and soccer field near the high school. You have spot on the bluffs by the coastline. Tons of spots, different looking, areas that you can post up in depending on how you decide to play. And it's a better approach than just having like this sleepy kind of quiet town that you're going to be fighting in with not a whole lot of interesting locations other than just coastline and trailer parks and
See, seeing this map kind of makes me curious. Would there be a way of creating a sort of choke point?
I'm trying not to, like, right now I can see areas where there could be a choke point, but most of it is probably coming down from the hills. And I look to remedy that by adding more pathways for the infected to take. Because, I mean, you could defend a main street, but there are going to be other places where they're going to come at you.
Yeah.
And then we have, of course, the randomization of where they're spawning from. They're not always going to attack from the same side.
Actually,
Depending on where you plan to focus your efforts at defending, that's pretty much how it's going to go down.
I actually really like the way you've sort of planned it out. I really do like that, because you don't really want to have the defense stagnate, and sort of have the players win overall. You want them to keep having a challenge and everything like that. So yeah, I like that sort of that way of thinking of where they kind of come in from everywhere instead of just specific choke points.
That, and keep in mind also that you're starting at the coast, so you're going to have to run in to grab a spot before they're on top of you, which is adding a little more a greater element of challenge to it, because you're going to have to get from the coastline to the main base where you're going to set up, and that's going to take some time as well.
One of the interesting parts
Oh,
just kind of interject into there, is that the previous horde map is what we call like a vertical slice, where the idea was that you kind of get the core of your AI and your movement and all that implemented and kind of prototyped on there. But because of the fact that we were going to actually have people playing it outside the dev team, there was a necessity to prioritize resources to get something that's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, because there's been a huge push from, rightfully so, from the Steam community, from the Discord community, if they want to actually play it and not just see us talk about it on a podcast, or not only just see us have the public playtest and they can't actually tangibly load it up and play it when they want. And this is us basically pushing in that direction, because like this map literally was made playable in the last 24 to 48 hours. And there's quite a few bugs with it that we have to iron out going into next week. And as Efrain mentioned, one of the things that he's doing now that he's kind of like cemented the layout of the map, he's working on the spawn points and setting up like where are they going to come from. Like they're spawning from the mountains and they're coming from these little entrances and sewer grates and little stuff on the edges of the map. And they invade from the outer edges and then they come towards the center over here. And they attack one of these 3 locations. 4 locations, I lied. Not that one. It's that one. Sorry. So it's one of those 4 locations. They attack them. And if you're able to keep them online, then they give you a multiplier for the kills that you get. Efrain, your mic is still on. We can hear everything. But you figure, so it's one of those things where we're looking at something for the Horde where it gives people tangible content that they can play while we're going into phase 2, while we're going into phase 3. And again, it's like, hey, like our goal is, now that we've moved Dimitri over, he's our texturing specialist, he's our wizard when it comes to like making things look photorealistic. He's going to come in, he's working on the hub. He'll be ironing out the hub and essentially getting that to a point where that's one piece of the puzzle of giving it to the community so they can play it, and the phase 1 release is like anyone can just jump in and play. That hub needs to look sexy and nice and textured, and the interior needs to be built. Now, sadly, on the 11th hour, he was not able to show the jailhouse in time, so he'll have that to show at the next podcast with some interior zones to show with some of the photorealistic texturing he's been doing for the hub. So I'll briefly pop over to that so I can show you guys, for the people that don't come every week, they know what I'm talking about, because there have been some changes to Alcatraz that we've kind of ironed out and done over the last like week or so. But pretty much Dimitri is taking up stewardship of this map, and it's his job to finalize the textures, get everything unwrapped, bring over mega scans and photorealistic like 3D scans of the island and incorporate them, build the jailhouse, and build the firing range here that the operators are going to be coming to customize and do their gear. And then you guys are going to spawn and start in the jailhouse in the main Cirque base of operations. And that's one of the most important things to me to get situated going into the end of June, is to get this finally, break soil. What's it called, the term, Durbar, when you're starting construction? Break soil, sure.
Yeah,
breaking soil in terms of breaking ground, is that it's important for us. And now that we've built the exterior, and it's just a matter of just like texturing up a couple of last elements, finalizing these textures so they look more photorealistic, which Dimitri can do in his sleep, then he's taking up stewardship of that. And then that way, in the next 2 weeks or whatever, the next 2 Cirque HQs, you guys will start to see tangible progress. I'll post something on the Discord early next week, because he said it was not possible for him to get it in today, but he'll have it Sunday or Monday. So then I'll post something on Discord so you guys can see how this main hub is coming together. Because the idea is that, from what we've been playtesting, is we want to build it around the idea that everyone starts here and there, and then you press the escape key, you can teleport around wings, whether you're playing an RTS or operator. And then the operator is kind of basically your customizable hero, your avatar, your Commander Winters. And basically, like, whether you use them only in RTS or you use them only in operator, it's whatever you want to do. If you don't want to use the operator, it's fine. Don't use them. But the idea is that way you can teleport around the hub, start a pandemic mission, start a horde mission, and just go around and just appreciate the level design and get some atmospheric storytelling and kind of set the stage for the campaign going into 2026 at this point. So that's one of the most important things for us, is to get the theming and keep tangibly building in that direction of being able to get to the point where we can do the story and the campaign. And by doing Alcatraz and all these we're chipping away at the total amount of work we have to do. So there's that for Alcatraz, and then it's basically for what we already showed you previously, which was the first horde map that's going, because we're not going to bring the old horde maps back. Like I mentioned previously, those were a product of their time. They're not very good. You figure like we need to do better in terms of basically level design and the game design and a bunch of other stuff. So and they need to be built around the idea of co-op, and they need to be built around the idea of vehicles. Because one of the biggest things for this map is going into phase 2. You guys are going to gain the airstrikes. You're going to gain logistic structures. You're going to gain the vehicles. The map has to be big enough. The horde maps have to be big enough to facilitate that from the get-go. So it was very important to us that when we built this rebuild, this new horde map, is to incorporate that from the get-go. And then that way, you guys are playing phase 1 and we're having our beta opt-ins for phase 2 every couple of weeks. We're like pushing out updates every couple of days. We're pushing out a new airstrike. We're pushing out a new whatever. Then that way you guys have your stable branch, which is going to be your phase 1 rebuild. And then you're going to have the experimental one. And that becomes when we do like a sporadic secret playtest on Discord, and X, Y, and Z. So that's the kind of the direction we're going into the summer. Is to kind of like get it to that point so you guys can host your own games and whatnot. So I'm going to bring up our Trello sheet so you guys can get some context of where we are. And then we're going to go into the programming and what we've actually done in terms of progress. So here, let me bring this up. Hold on one moment. I need to properly remember this keybind. There we go. Okay, so basically, this is where we currently are. And essentially, we've been chipping away, I would say, somewhere around here. Yeah, about there. So around here, is basically what we've chipped away since last time we talked. And we're going to go through each one, show you the progress we've had. Right now, I'm just kind of working on these bugs and these quality of life things. These are the remaining abilities that Derek's working on. The to-dos are mostly bugs and smaller quality of life changes. We shrunk about half of the TBD over the last 2 weeks. And then the UI is a big one. The UI is basically one of the last things that we want to get in before we open it up the floodgates and everyone's allowed in, which means the pause menu, the main menu, the hover tips, all the stuff that you guys have grown accustomed to in Legacy that actually give all the tactile feedback of what's going on. So that's one of the biggest things for you to keep in mind is that, like, yes, all that's coming back, it's just coming in layers. So, and then, our plan going into the next week is early next week is he's going to knock out this list by Tuesday. I'm knocking out this list and grabbing whatever I can as I go and taking from his list going into Tuesday, because we're trying to be completely done with the abilities going into Monday, Tuesday. And then at that point, it's the operator. It's basically the operator. So we'll spend 2 or 3 days going through and knocking out the operator customization, the gunsmith, the operator attachments for his guns, making the UI, making the kiosk on the hub, and that kind of stuff. And then once the operator is done, that's a huge chunk. And then it's just like rewriting the parachute, rewriting small little aspects here and there, where they didn't really kind of fire on all cylinders. And we're saving the UI for the end. So the UI is going to be one of the last things that you see us doing going into like 2 weeks from now. So in about 2 weeks, roughly, we'll be shipping out the UI. And this is all just kind of coalescing into basically working on getting everything playable for your guys' standpoint. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into one of the top-down example maps we've been testing, so you guys can see tangibly what actually is happening. And then after this, me and Durvar are going to jump into a co-op game, and we'll demonstrate it live. So one of the biggest things that we got in was a leveling system. Now, as I mentioned before, the operators have a persistent leveling system. So that level 6 is because I've been playing as this operator through the editor over multiple days, and now he's accumulated that level. That's probably not a good example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab and I'm going to pull in a scientist. Let's pull in a radio man. Let's pull in a sniper, a spec ops, winters, a medic, a heavy, engineer, and an assault. And then spawn in again. So we finally got all the classes in over the course of the last week. I've been talking about this for like the past couple of weeks of like, it was really important that we got the foundation built for the classes of how we're going to do the weapons, how are we going to do leveling, how are we going to do like the interaction between units and just make sure it's very easy to scale. So like, you know, the new scientist is in. Let me actually fix the camera so you guys can actually appreciate him. So the new scientist is an example. You know, the radio man's in. Obviously you can see his abilities aren't in. That was on the Trello sheet that I showed you guys previously. But like the sniper's ability is done for deploy and for snipe. The assault abilities are in for throwing grenade, construction. Well, construction's been there forever, and the combat flare. Then you have like the heavy, his deploy gun and his rapid fire are in. Medic ability is not in, but that'll be coming in, like I mentioned earlier in the week. Winter's flashbang and her cloak aren't in, but that's coming in early next week. And we'll be giving her a passive that's going to form the basis that the operators can take as well, where basically she passively boosts the XP gain of units around her. Because we've always wanted to do this, and we're going to just do it. Is make passive abilities that classes can take. Like the spec ops night vision is going to be a passive this time around. We're not going to do that idiotic game design decision of let's make a manual toggle where you have to turn the night vision goggles on and off. Nobody wants to do that. It's too much micromanagement. Fuck that. So one of the things that we were going to do is that's a change that we're doing with this rebuild, is making it to where the night vision for the spec ops, he puts his goggles down and he doesn't lose his line of sight. Because I think Maxim or someone else mentioned this earlier in the builds, is that when we were playtesting the builds a couple weeks ago, there's no change in terms of how far they can see at day and night in the early builds. Well, now that's coming in, going into like the end of phase 1 as like the final icing on the cake. So now the assault and the sniper are always going to be inferior to a spec ops because of their night vision goggles and whatnot. So they're like they're like the ones that go on the boom in the dark, whatever kind of deal. Because that's their idea. They're the covert operatives, kind of like sneaking in and around. They have the highest stealth stats and everything else. What's the word I'm thinking of? Glass cannons. So what I'm going to do is let me zoom out and let me show you what we got. So right off the bat, let me set the time. If I can remember, set day 24. Okay, and then put the flare, and then he's gonna do the thing, and then when it pops, there it goes. So there's the flare, and it's in. That's an interesting visual bug, so we're gonna have to look into that. That's probably because it's asset hidden, but the flare is in and working. And you can see a little parachute. And it drops all the way down over 60 seconds. I'm not sure. That's interesting. I've never seen that happen before. Well, it's test map, so yeah. But that doesn't happen in a live game. But basically, there's the flare. It's working, and it's implemented, and it's replicated. We were actually playing a co-op session the other day on Discord last night for a couple hours. So we did like 2 sessions on the new co-op map. And then we did like a bunch of sessions on the legacy one, because that one just is more feature complete. But so there's the first ability. Then we got the grenade in. So then that way you can do this and you can throw. We do have to get a better grenade throw animation. That's going to be ironed out from Michael's side. It looks atrocious, but it does do the job. That's something that I'm going to talk to Michael about. And the flare has died. So I'm going to turn on my flashlights so I can see. You know what? Let me just set the time back to noon. And then we're going to go over to the heavy. And we got the heavy's deploy ability. And then if I do that, you can see the range which they can target, which is this little octet right here. We're going to put all these guys on hold fire. And then press the equal sign. And the idea is that like if it's outside that cone, the cone like for Legacy, it increases the range in which they can shoot, but it makes it where they're deployed. Michael's working on a crouch animation and an actual like setup that they have. So that way, like they kind of like set up and position themselves. So it makes more sense that why they're fixed into that arc. So that's something that Michael's working on going into early in the week. And this is like an example of like if we deploy, say, in this direction, and then you press the equal sign, he's not going to respond. So then you got to let them do the job. Because again, he's set up, he's deployed, he's looking in that direction. He can't undeploy, is the idea. And then the other thing we got was the rapid fire. So if I press this, and then I press X, and the rapid fire increases the fire rate by 20%, like it did in Legacy, so that's back in again. The meta killing is not in yet, so I'm just mentioning that for people. That will be coming in Monday. We got the sniper's ability in for being able to aim. Same thing, different color. It does work for multiple characters, so if you have multiple heavies, you can queue up all of them. You can queue up each rapid fire. So if I choose him and go that way... Oh, he's on hold fire. I'm stupid. Probably shouldn't.
I've always been a big fan of the heavy.
Yeah, I
I've
know,
always
because your
spammed out
meta
heavies.
is the heavy. And I think that's everyone's meta. Is like they like to spam the heavy. I think I literally just found a bug too.
I don't think you can beat the heavy and scientist combo with the flamethrower. Like that's just peak gameplay right there.
No, it is. So actually, let me go to a bigger map so I can actually easier show this. So we're gonna go to. Actually, no. What I can do. No, yeah, I just risk it. We're gonna go with the co-op test map, and then I'm just gonna place the classes in so it's easier for you guys to see. So we're gonna grab you. We're gonna grab you, and you, and play. And then we're going to keep the countdown, and then I'm going to just demonstrate that the barracks has all of the weapons now. So the only class that's missing their weapons at this point is the Spec Ops. That's something that me and Michael are going to be working on going into Monday. So I'm going to fast forward time in the sake of speed. This is another reason why we want to get rid of this map. It's like you figure, yeah.
I will admit myself, right? I never really used the Spec Ops. I didn't see.
It's something that basically Michael needs to kind of work out on them because the idea was they're supposed to be the cloak and dagger unit. They have utility and they have a purpose in the game design like triangle, but it just needs to be more clearly defined from his standpoint of the balance because again, everyone just falls back on the assaults, the heavy, and the scientists. And I'm going to show why. Is that you figure when I click on him, you can see that he has the M107. He has the PT20 and the M9. They're back to starting with the stock M9 like they did in Legacy. You have the M249 with the minigun and the M240B. Same thing here. I'll show it. Michael's still working on the texture. So, it's still, he has to get that texture in. Then you have like the scientist with all of his guns in now. The P90. The flamethrower. The MP7, and the M6. So you figure we got all those guns in and they're working. I'll show the flamethrower briefly because that's everyone's favorite love child. And then Winters is in.
I love flamethrowers.
She only has the AA-12 right now on the other one. Holy Jesus. The flamethrower's like ammo definitely needs to be buffed. I made horde mode probably impossibly hard, so I probably shouldn't have been not paying attention because we're probably dead now. Let me just, in the sake of not dying, set everyone so they can't die.
Which is all your fault.
That way I can just demonstrate it and not have to worry about them dying. Oh, let me set the horde objective so it can't die either. So the flamethrower thing is one of the things where like we upgraded it to Niagara, and it's something that Dimitri's working on to kind of like iron out the kinks alongside his other tasks. The flamethrower is going to get changed up a little bit for its model. It's still the old legacy one, and it needs to be updated for the newer asset, so it better connects to everything else. So there are some balancing changes that need to happen to the flamethrower with its visuals and just generally how it's shown. Let me see. Let me go ahead and pull up my notes so I can show the next section. What else do we have on the agenda for this section, Durvar?
And let me just quickly take a peek at my list. So,
Oh, the leveling.
Control quality of life.
So one of the other things that you'll notice is that they're gaining levels as they kill.
Yep.
So the level actually increases their base health as they level up. One of the other things that we're looking at going into long term is like adding it to where it affects their ammo capacity, something that me and Michael are talking about. And then another thing we're talking about is just their spread. We were talking about having it to where the level, like it did in Legacy, emulates their morale. So the idea is a lower level is more likely to miss, and higher levels aren't. So as them just basically fighting and just kind of dealing with the infection and killing infected, they become more proficient overall. So it's one of the things that we're looking at going into the next like 2 to 3 days, is ironing it out a little bit more and just kind of getting that implemented. So that baby is in there, and it does work for the operator, and it does work for every class. And you can see like it basically just increased their health. So let me see if I can find someone about the level. Let's see if I can move the scientist up and he gets some more kills. See, like you say, there he leveled up, his health went up. And then Michael's still actively balancing the health and just trying to find the best numbers that kind of make sense. They're not broken. So what I'll do now is let me pop out because we figure they're in God mode, so I can't lose anyway. And one of the other things that we did get in over the last week was, let me go over here, was that we got it set up so that the priority targeting was working, because that was not in, and we got a bunch of different cursors made. So if I right click, that finally works now. I know it's simple. Every RTS game has had it since the beginning of time. But we got that working with their AI, so now they'll ignore targets. So like for instance, if I spawn 2 of them and I tell them to attack the second one, well, that's probably a bad example because they both came at the same time. But let me do this. Let me spawn in and then spawn a couple. Oh, you know what? There's a better test map for this. It's this one. So if I tell him to shoot that guy, we finally got that in and working for that setup, because that wasn't working and that wasn't fully implemented. We did also get the continuous build mode that was suggested from people. For that way, like certain structures will by default allow you to just keep building, like walls. That was a major piece of feedback that we got that people wanted us to do, and it was in Legacy, so we brought it over. So like you figure like walls don't do it, but like you figure like the garrison tents do it. We need to extend that to the wall, so it's something that we're going to do going into like early next week. So that is in as well for being able to continuously build. Let's see, what else is there that we got? Oh, the sock and the rarity levels. So one of the other things that we didn't really touch upon too much in one of the previous podcasts was that we did finally get the sock rarity system back in that was in Legacy. So then that way, like level designers could go and set low, medium, and high. So that's what those colors are represented. We're still playing with the colors right now. They're on purple, green, and yellow, I believe. And gold being, gold, yellow, green. Yeah, sorry. For like the different rarity levels. So it's something else that we're basically just kind of ironing out and play testing as we go. We brushed over that a couple weeks ago, and we never really actually mentioned it actively. So it's something else that was implemented and is working. Another piece of feedback that we got over the last couple of weeks was just how annoying it was to select turrets in the playtests. So we did iron that out. So here, I'll place one in. So if I grab you and I set you to insta build, so I don't have to have an engineer do something. We ended up basically just setting it up so that because it's a structure attached to a weapon. So what was happening is that basically when you'd click on it, you'd have to have like laser focus to the base, which was the structure, and not the weapon on top. So we did extend that. So having like being able to click on the base weapon here does do it. The barrel doesn't sometimes, I guess. So there's some kind of collision accuracy thing going on there. So we'll look into that. But that was another change that we did from doing the playtest, from talking to you guys in the room to just see what kind of concerns and feedback did you guys have from us basically just doing all that. Let's see. What else do we have? Oh, we did sneak in a kill count. So all units have a kill count now. So as they kill people, that guy got the kill. It will accumulate. So operators have it, normal RTS units have it. Everyone basically has that by default.
I can now track how many
Oh
enemies I
yeah.
killed.
So
Hell
and then
yeah.
one of the other things that we got, oh lord, one of the other things that we got quite a few bugs about was that there were a lot of issues related to weapon switching. So we did iron out and retool some aspects of the operator's weapon switching and equipping to just fix those bugs and alleviate them. And if you guys watch some of our recent live streams, you would have people having that issue where if they spam switching weapons, they could get the gun to just indefinitely keep firing on their back. So again, it's been a constant. Let's hunt down the bugs. Let's talk to people in the rooms. Let's do public play tests. Let's see what kind of issues that they're running into, and then trying to eliminate as many of them as possible while still trying to keep pushing the roadmap forward. Oh, right. One of the other things that we did also change based off of talking to people wanting to play test is that people wanted to basically see the health of structures when they look at them. Not really sure why that one's being silly. I'll have to look into that. But it does work for general structures like that now, where if you look at it, it will basically show their health like it does for the Circ infantry. I guess I'll have to take a screenshot of that and investigate that. So that's fun. Oh, and then one of the other things that we did was the gates. So we only really talked about that much, not that much really on the YouTube last week, but we did get a new gate asset in. So let me build those. They're basically roll-up doors. And the idea was that this looks silly, so let me just not snap those two together. But the idea is essentially to solve the long-standing issues that we would have for years of people not liking how units respond to the gates. They go back and forth, they dance, the pathfinding is idiotic, you name it. And it was because of the way that the doors were done is that they had to move to the right over here, and they had to move to the left there. So when we did that, we moved the navigation object there, and it created this weird void in the center where we couldn't reliably update the nav. So we ended up opting for basically like this approach where it's like if I close the gate right now at 50%, it invalidates it, so AI know they can't go through it. But on automatic mode, basically, they know they can go through it even when it closes. So if I move these people away, you can see there's that white nav there. So let's see. They'll know they can go through it by basically like that special nav that gets placed. And that was one of the most important things for us is like having that different filter system. So when it's in manual mode and you close it, it's the white one so that infected and everyone else know they can't go through it. But when it's in automatic mode, it registers as normal nav. So that way they know they can go through it. And we don't have to worry about the potential issues with like this coming way out here, that coming way out there. I suppose I was playing Last of Us actually earlier today, and I noticed they had a very interesting design where they just had one long wall, and they would just have the double section here where the wall would it was just a gate that was really long, and they'd have it so it opened sideways and just occupied that space. So if there's enough demand for it later on, we might consider just making a bigger version of this gate where like it goes sideways again, but it closes up into a self-contained area. But for the immediate future of like quite a bit of time, it's going to be kept to this newer design. We'll potentially look into that in the future if there's enough demand for it. And then to kind of show you the tier 3 gate. and then the tier 2 gate, and then run away, and then go closer, go over there. So that's the new system for the gates that we got in over the course of the last couple weeks. We didn't talk about it too much. Let me see. So there's that. Let me go ahead and pull up the next note.
See, something I do sort of like about the new game, right, is it is aesthetic, it's tongue twister. It's aesthetically pleasing to watch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dimitri did he did a beautiful job basically rigging it and skinning it and getting all the technical stuff of the mesh actually like deforms and like folds up inside of itself, which is not an easy thing to do rigging wise. Like I think that took him quite a bit of research and scratching his head in 3ds Max and just get it all rigged, animated, skinned. So that way, like, it actually, like, folds in and does all that stuff. So he did a really good job on that. And, like, here, I'll show the double gate version. Because he did get that one in as well. If I can learn how to click properly. There you go. So you figure there's the bigger double gate variant. And then we got rid of that annoying text that was like locked, not locked. And now it's converted to this green light, yellow light, red light system. And when it's in manual mode, it's yellow. So operators, RTS players know at an instant glance, I know what mode that thing is in. And then if I cut the power, then it goes red. Everyone knows they've lost power connection to the grid, and they need to reattain it via operators building something or RTS players building something. So we got rid of that, and we went in the direction of just having a dynamic color that changes. And I think it's cleaner and it's a lot better. The previous thing was just a mock-up. It was meant just to kind of like demonstrate in the playtest for people. Is that gate locked? RTS player, can you open this gate for my operators? Can you open this gate for my units? You know, because I noticed that when we were playing with people on the public Discord, there was a lot of back and forth of like, well, why isn't this gate opening? The game is broken, the game is bugged. But it was because random RTS players would just lock a gate, subconsciously thinking they were still playing the game by themselves, single player, and not realize, oh wait, I'm playing with other people. Maybe not everyone wants this gate on manual mode or automatic or open all the time. So this was our answer to that based off of just sitting in a room and talking to people and just seeing what kind of conversations would present themselves, what kind of frustrations would occur, and just being reactionary about the whole thing. About like, okay, and on top of that, trying to reduce the visual clutter on the screen. Because when one of the big things that I want to do with Winter is figure out is what we're going to do with these little like test zones power -75. Because I want to simplify that. Because it's too much visual clutter seeing it all the time. So something else that we're going to aim to just kind of rectify going into the next couple of weeks towards the end of June is to see if we can improve that UX and make it a little bit more intuitive. Now, one of the things that Michael's been doing is that he's been going through, and well, during animations and the weapons like he always does, but one of the things that he's been doing is essentially going through and setting up the balancing. So, like, if I go to that class, and if I go to their weapons, wait, no, I don't want that one. He doesn't have one registered because this is dynamic. But if I go to their weapon class, and I go to their damage table, he's been essentially just kind of going through and playing with the numbers and figuring out which weapons are good at what infected, doing all the numbers, playtesting and test maps, and just kind of setting up all the damage types for the infected. So then that way, people would know, like, oh, the M14 is really good against the blow-up guy, but maybe it's bad about that unit in X, Y, and Z. So, like, if I search for DT_Spitter, then he's been setting up, like, these. Where it's like, oh, when a spitter hits the operator, it does 0.7 damage, engineer 0.8, and he's just been basically just playing in the map, watching people, so he'll go on the channel when you guys are playing and not talk for hours, and just watch you guys play. So whenever Michael joins the channel and he's not talking and you guys are share screening, he's just watching how you guys play, and then saying like, "What are you?" He's just creeping. He's just like, well, "What are you exploiting? How are you playing the game? What's the meta? X, Y, and Z," and just trying to figure out all of that. So then that way he can make informed decisions based off of what he perceives as a problem or not a problem, and then also talking to you guys in some cases when he's in the room, or just observing. Because you figure, even he was telling me the other day, is that we need to have another major playtest on the public Discord so he can see how the new balance is holding up. Because he has it in his idea how well it might be doing, but he needs to actually watch it. So you can see right here, this is how we make the generators or certain things more resilient to melee infected from the spitter. So yeah, a lot of numbers, a lot of multiplication here and there, but he's been kind of going through there and slowly but surely just kind of weeding out the game balance, starting from the framework of what Legacy had and then adjusting it as needed, because not everything is going to be one-to-one to the previous balancing, because there's things that need to be improved for the Legacy balancing that made the game a little too easy or too meta-y sometimes. Let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, one of the other things that I set out to do this week was also improving, technically last week, was improving the blow-up guy AI so he understands his JOB. Because sometimes he just does not get it. His job is just to go in and die. Not to sit there and melee you for 80 kabillion hours, but to basically, if he's trapped in a wall, he needs to immediately destroy said wall. So that's one of the things that I was working on, and I'll show you right now. Let me just fast forward time for the sake of efficiency. I'm just kind of trapping this blow-up guy in a cage so I can demonstrate it. Because previously in the older builds, a blow-up guy would act like a standard infected, and he would just stand there. Oh yeah, this is the random bug that happens when you turn the time dilation too fast in the Unreal Engine. It's a physics bug. But anyway, so that if I put it down to slow-mo 1, and then I spawn him, boom, he does his ability, he blows up. If you kill him before he does his super blow-up, his charge ability where he kind of self-immolates or do whatever, then basically he will not do as much damage. So if you kill him before he reaches his apex of explosion, it's half damage. If he's able to finish his full ability attack, then it's a full damage. A full damage will take out a tier 1 wall. It'll take out a tier 2 half health, and it'll take down a tier 3 a quarter of a health. So the idea is in that way it incentivizes quick moment-to-moment gameplay of you have a sniper, you better snipe that guy before he finishes his charge up. So if I put these guys on hold fire, and then I send little Timmy on his little repair run, he'll just go around and repair all the walls for me. I don't have to babysit him. I was one of well, what is he trying to get to? God damn it, it's that fucking slow-mo bug. I apologize. It's a physics issue with time dilation. Okay, so we got all of them. So now I'm going to do that. Put him on hold fire, and then let him properly kill himself. Oh, god damn it. Get out of here. Damn it, ruining my playtest. I forgot there was a turret there. Apologies. Well, at least I'm just showing a new the auto repairing system that we got in. Oh, and let me just change the time. Okay, so now we're going to demonstrate it again, and okay, we're good. Yeah. See? Now he hit his full charge. He went Hadouken on your base. So the idea is that Michael still has to balance that quite a bit, but the idea is that's one of the things that we're kind of playing with, is giving them abilities and different things. So you actually have to have per moment decision making of if I don't shoot that spitter, he's going to do it a special attack. If I don't take out that blow-up guy, he's going to take out my entire group. Helm's Deep kind of shit. Where it's he's choreographing something. Maybe you should prioritize that guy choreographing something. Because we don't just want it to be an autopilot, mindless RTS game. There's skin in the game. Your units aren't going to fight the battle for you. You have to actually pay attention. So when something's going on, a battle's going, situating, you got a tab target there, you have to jump there on the mini map, you have to actually have eyes on. Use the slow-mo, use the tactical pause, pay attention. Because you figure, I've gotten one of the things over the last couple of years of the units, people want the unit to do everything for them. No. You have skin in the game. You're going to actually have to pay attention to every combat encounter. And one bad decision will cost you total defeat is one of the most important things that I want to do. Where it's like this rebuild is like pushing on the AI here, improving the spitters there, and when I get my way in the next week or two, I'm going to squeeze in a couple more AI spitter improvements. Now, we got the climbing in, and the new map will have the climbing implemented when we start doing playtesting ideally in the next week or so. Then that map will get the climbing. Right now, only the RTS co-op map, but there's other things that I'm going to push, like the juggernauts being able to jump on rooftops, like the spitters climbing. We know about that, but other things I'm not going to talk too much about that are akin to that, where it's like you're going to have to understand each unit's move set and what they can and cannot do, so that way you can deploy units correctly or incorrectly and learn the hard way. Fuck around and find out. So, because in that case, you had a sniper on a wall, on an elevated position, you've used the snipe ability, he never becomes a problem. So it's one of those things where you have to just kind of know what's going on and just make the per moment decisions there. So that's one of the things that we kind of got there situated, and I'll just demonstrate it on the units now. So I killed that one. Oh, he didn't kill that one. So that's something else that we're looking into. Is I'm going to have to probably have Derek look into that. It killed him, but it didn't kill these two. There's something going on where sometimes units body block the damage channels. So it's something that I have to iron out going into next week. Because I'm sure if I spawn another one, it's just going to work perfectly. Watch. Yeah, that's weird. Oh, no, it's because they have so much health when they have a damage resistance. Because Michael, they were getting sniped. That's right. Sorry, that's a bad demonstration. Because Michael added a damage reducer there. That was the damage types I was talking about previously. Had that been an assault, you'd be dead. So that was one of the other things that I kind of snuck in there in the last week or so with everything else. Now, Durvar, can we demonstrate some of this in a live session before we move on to the Q&A stuff?
Let me just launch.
Okay.
We can.
So I'm going to...
My base looks so good right now.
Okay, let me open up Steam, and we're going to load right in. I literally just did push another update while we were doing the thing. So hopefully you got that. It's not that big. I was cooking it during the podcast, which is why I was a little bit distracted.
Oh, you just okay. I'm gonna.
Oh, Kriegi, you coming too?
I didn't know you were cooking a build.
Oh,
yeah, I can come.
It. You dog, you.
Yeah, it's too easy.
Come on, let's go. I'm not you, the thing. Sorry, I was talking to you. I just want to show it actually in gameplay so we can demonstrate it actually working. So let me host a session. All right, session's up.
Oh, I gotta download the update, don't I?
So,
no.
Let's see. Let me just kind of pop this.
All right, done. Loading up.
Oh, I hate how Discord does that now. It does like a virtual camera at the bottom. So one of the other things
you can disable. You can disable them.
Right. So one of the other things that we did was we made it to where when other operators join the hub, you by default see all their names. In previous builds, you had to basically look at everyone, which was stupid because you couldn't keep track of people, where they were, what color was who. So that was an important thing that we got in, was that so when he joins in a second, you'll see his name is always visible. We did fix that stupid HUD bug where like the health bars of operators would break. I hunted that down and eradicated that about a week ago for the week that we skipped a Circ HQ. The reason why I'll just kind of fill the air. The reason why we skipped that Circ HQ was because we were in the middle of doing the ability system. and all the weapons and all the new classes, that we were in a transitionary period where the game was kind of like broken in some ways, where like we had to like change these aspects of the code. We were moving this stuff around. So it was one of those things where like we were like, okay, let's just hold off for a week, come back next week, and have a little bit more to show. So you can see Krieg there demonstrating the name tags that appear at all times. I don't have to aim at them like in Legacy. How long do you have, Durvar? Should we just start?
I don't have the dev branch for some reason.
The password's in the Patreon channel. Remember, I rotate out the password every... Hold on. Let me just write it. It's in the Patreon channel. So, we and Krieg are going to start then, and then go join mid-game. We're going to pop into a session. Krieg can just demonstrate the abilities. So, do you want to both play RTS, and I take the north and you take the south, or what's the game plan here to demonstrate? Because we need to show the abilities and all that fun stuff.
I can go RTS because I actually don't have the ability.
So we're going to try that out. So let's go to... We're going to go to the Legacy map because HMB is not ready yet for normal play sessions. Okay, so I'm going to grab these two engineers and send them up north. You can take the south ones. And I'll basically just get started on fortifying that. I'm going to get a barracks down, and then I'll get our Jenny up. And then that way I'll give us a little bit of money for the sake of time so we can demonstrate the new units. Okay, so I gave us 100K so we can just demonstrate the gameplay a little bit quicker. So I don't want to have to go through like 5 waves. Oh, here comes the Sky Crane. One of the things that we're also looking into going into like before we releasing it is lowering some of the network traffic and optimizing that a little bit more. That's one of the things that I've been doing while we play test with people publicly is I'll be sitting there on the console commands I've been playing in the game, but then just profiling and figuring out where we can lessen the cost of certain actions of units and just hyper optimize. You'll also notice this is the old scientist. That'll get changed going into early next week. And we need a garrison tent because we're over a pop. So I'll place down some here. And then we're going to build some heavy so we can demonstrate them. And we're going to build some scientists with the flamethrowers. We're going to get some snipers in. And then let's get some assaults with the F-2000s. If we can hold that long. Crap. Grenade. Are you getting wrecked on the south? Oh, okay, you
I'm
can pause it.
Gucci.
No. Oh, God damn it. Alright, here comes our reinforcements. I'll distribute them. I'm going to send over a scientist to you to use. And then a heavy. And then I'll send you over an extra operator too. And then I'll space out this guy. We're going to put the sniper on that roof. Actually, we'll put both snipers on the roof. Have them do their job. Put that work in. Distribute there, distribute there. Oh, my sniper got sniped. Okay, well, let me build another. And I'll give him the Barrett 50 cal. Then we're going to set up some fortifications. for the heavy. Oh, there he is. I must have grabbed him on accident. Wasn't paying attention close enough. So we're gonna just kind of set this heavy up and use the fire up ability there. And then, do you need a sniper or anyone in the south?
I've got things rather locked down. So, however, I would say with the climbing effect, like once maps are, able to have that for our own units, like snipers are just going to become
Cannon fodder?
so good to use.
Oh,
I can imagine
shit.
players.
Hold on one sec. I'm sorry, I keep pausing the game. I should have sent an escort up there. No. Why? They were so young. I should have sent it heavy up there. Oh, my flamethrower tried to get it. That's embarrassing. It'd be nice when we get that crouch animation in, because then when I would press this, he would just crouch down, set up his gun, and just go to town. And that's coming early next week. Same thing with the sniper. He's going to have a crouch animation where he just kind of like goes into like a special stance and just kind of like takes the posture to just snipe down a certain avenue. It'll still be gamey to a certain point, but it'll at least distinguish deploys in this mode for the sniper, and the heavy you'll be able to visually tell they're in that mode. Besides just clicking on it, being like, is he in deploy? Oh, he's in deployed. Oops. So like that's one of the biggest things is having some kind of visual, indicator for this kind of stuff. The biggest thing is like in Legacy, the engineers would just stand around when they were building stuff, and it was atrocious. So now the engineers have like an actual welding tool, and he's using that sexy new F2000. Oh, look at that. So you figure progress nonetheless. Now I'm going to go fortify over there, and we're going to get these boys set up, because the wave's going to get larger and larger. Oh god, you're too young. We gotta buff that flamethrower. It should be assimilating them. Now you can see these guys are so focused on their fire up ability, they're not even turning around, but that's how it was in Legacy. Because once you lock them into that direction, they're not going to turn, even if they're being hit. And then you can see the sniper right now. His range is pretty substantial. So he's shooting people all the way down there sometimes based off of his line of sight. So he can see technically around there if someone is actually spotting for him. So one of the things that we want to do this time around with the spotter going into phase 2 is that we're going to give him a spotter guy that you can move around with him. And he kind of just has binoculars, and he'll basically like kind of help like protect the sniper. So in situations like up here when he's alone, he'd be like watching the back. He has an SMG, and his job is just to basically watch the sniper's back and protect him. So it's something that we want to prototype and just kind of figure out this time around, for just kind of making the sniper a two-man team that you order one and then the other one just kind of works with him. So that's something that's on the doctrine sheet that was at the end of 2024. That was like that huge diagram that we put out on the Steam forums and on the end of the year news post. So you can see that there demonstrated. We're doing pretty decent right now. Not too bad. I'm like the only one not building walls. And then you can see that this is one of the issues that I still need to eradicate, is sometimes there's like pockets of infected that just kind of meander around. So it's something that I'm going to have to like hunt down and kind of figure out what's happening there. You also notice that we kind of buff the turrets, but they're still not like vulnerable. Oh shit. Okay. Unlock. Help. I'll move those guys for you. Hold on. You were trying to play something here?
Yeah, it's all good. It's we ran out of power.
Yeah. Do you want me to build something? Oh, you got it.
I got it.
Oh,
yeah.
you upgraded to the large. Okay, so we need to get. There's a heavy ability in there. Okay, screw it.
Yes, get them infected. Get them.
You're horrible.
Get them mad.
We overpowered. Oh, we are. Jesus Christ. Oh, I stole your engineer. I'm so sorry. Can we get an engineer to build a tent somewhere?
Yeah, I'm gonna do it once I get some security
Yeah, we're
up.
not doing that hot. Oh, god damn it. Get out of here, Spitter.
No, get them, Spitter.
Whose
Get them.
team are you on?
Don't stop now.
No. Yeah, I'm trying to build
who
a pretty
are you?
base.
Oh, on your
You're
I
not
don't
team.
on our
know you
team.
anymore.
You're on their team.
I'm on the infected team. That's the team I'm on.
Oh, here, I can demonstrate the flare. When it goes nighttime, I'll pop that on the assault on the northern front. Alright, I'm going to build an engineer because we need the redundancies. I can't. Oh, wait, technically I can build one.
We need more infected.
No, we don't.
That's good. We need more spitters. We need a round of just spitters. Thousands of them.
I hate
I
you so
agree.
much.
Are you sure you're not on their team?
I'm on the infected team. I've made this very
Yeah.
known.
Thanks. Oh, Lord.
Yes, get them.
We
might be done,
so.
so.
I might have
I'm
made
gonna lie.
it. I was talking.
No, we're good. No, we're
Wait,
good.
I think we're
Gucci.
salvaging. We're
I think we
salvaging
can
it.
persevere.
We can stack the socks. It'll be fine.
We are.
I'm gonna shoot a flare up because I can't see for shit. Where's my assault? For the love of God, man, shoot it up before you die.
Oh, lovely.
So it reveals all the units, so we can see them without like around corners. So everything in the red hue, it's like a radial where it just reveals all units. Think of it as like a little temporary drone that you get. Okay, do we have a single engineer? Oh, we need that UI so badly. I'm like a blind bat trying to find an engineer. You are making a pretty base. God, I suck at base building at my own game.
Well, damn right. When have I
You
not
and Bob
made
are
a pretty
like the
base?
fucking base
Now we just-
savants when it comes to like designing stuff.
Now we just
Yeah.
need a. Now we just need a blow up guy to go in and explode it.
Whose side are you on?
I'd
Oh,
like,
yours?
I'd like you to remember we're in the same like building and
Right?
Project
We're
Zomboid.
in a compound and Project Zomboiding. You act like you're out to get us killed.
I'm not in
You
your
know what I mean.
compound.
Traitor.
I can't move.
Sorry,
Oh, you
I'm
keep
so
on pausing.
sorry. I need
That's
to
why.
pause it for a second to like.
I'm at anti-pause
know.
gang.
I'm getting like.
Hey, this guy's
I'm
not a real
getting
RTS
sweaty
player.
because I'm used to pausing it in single player is my problem. Because I pause it constantly to just think. So that's going to be one of the interesting parallels.
Yeah, I
When
used
it
to
comes
play
to
Risk.
co-op, is you can't really do that as much. It becomes a frustration mechanic for people. Like it's almost gonna have to be like a voted upon thing.
See, we need to take the pause option out so
Are
Rob
you?
can't pause
You're
it.
just trying to get me killed at this point, bro. Is there a random?
Oh, speaking of Project Zomboid, I've got something to talk to you about, Craig, about that.
Oh.
It's a
Okay.
fun little thing. Good news, not bad. I definitely haven't burnt the base down.
You better not have, because I spent like 8 hours building it.
The flare gun again, didn't they?
He stole my flare gun. I got that through hard work.
No one took the flare gun off of me.
Oh, see, that's the issue I was talking about with the spitter. He thinks he can hit people from weird targets. That's what I was talking about. That's that edge case where I need to hunt down where sometimes they think that they can shoot something that they can't. Alright, so I have a small little armada. I'm going to just push that area here with those units. We're going to push here with those units, and we're going to start building some fortifications.
We need a dog round.
Oh, what?
You know, like in COD Zombies.
No.
You know, like a dog round? But like, no, not actual
Yeah, the
dogs, like
totem.
perfect dogs, but like, you know, have a bird, like a bird
Sure.
round.
I'll give you a bird round. Where they eat your eyes out.
Yep, that's it. That's how you do it.
Lord.
Crows is a great movie. Or Birds. That's the movie Birds.
I never want
Remember
to
that?
say. I never ever want to hear you say Birds was a good movie. I never
It
want
was.
to
It was great.
never want to hear you utter those.
Traumatized me as a child. All the best movies
Do
traumatize
they
you.
really?
I used to watch.
Yeah, okay, we're done.
What do you mean- Oh my god.
We're so done.
You had one job.
We're so done. What do you mean? It's because make the turrets
You gotta
prioritize
put
bigger
them in that
targets
mode.
then.
I'm sorry, Senpai. Yeah.
I do.
You have to put them in the fire mode. Otherwise, we assume you want them to just be equal opportunity. Now, they will prioritize things that hit them first. But otherwise, it's going to be purely based off of, like, what hit them and what they perceive as the most dangerous in that. Oh, my God. There's a spitter on that roof. Hold on. I'm sending in the boys.
Yeah.
Get in there, boy. Send the boy.
I don't think we have
Mow
any
them all down.
engineers.
Yeah, I have engineers. I think. Wait, hold on.
I'm going
Buy
to buy
You have money.
2 more. Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Indeedly.
I'm like one of those. I'm like one of those assholes on those sidelines cheering for the opposing team.
And then obviously the leveling system is an incentive to keep your units alive, because in some cases they'll gain up to 40 to 50% more health by the time they reach level 5. So your spec ops, your snipers, your assaults, they become a lot more resilient to damage naturally by having more health. It's not as superficial as it was in Legacy. In Legacy, all we ever did was give them 5 or 10 health across the board. Slap on the back, we've done our job. Not good enough this time around. So one of the things that we looked at based off just talking to people and just kind of like what people have said over the years of feedback is they want the leveling to matter. Oh crap, hold on. No, blow up guy. Oh, no. Why? Oh, god damn it. No, they were so young. Retreat to the, oh, goddamn spitters. Oh, god. Yeah, I lost my entire northern front. They just got sniped by spitters. Flare up. Come on. I can't see for the life of me. Get that guy. Get that guy. He's just chilling up there. Okay, I'm gonna go around the back and shoot him.
Oh, give me a minute. I will be back.
Okay.
I am leaking.
No. Oh my god. Me trying to keep a unit beyond level 3 is like a pipe dream right now. They don't like. They just like you. They don't even hit your base because of all the fortifications that you have, don't you? Are they even attempting to? Are they just going around to me now?
I just have a habit. Yeah, no, they do attempt. They did break a hole in it, so I have to repair
Oh,
that.
that.
However, I'm just
Yeah,
better.
no. That's one of the things that I do have to kind of push up on this version of the AI is they need to understand, like, yeah, it's nice to go around, but sometimes you need to sacrifice a couple of units and take the wall as well. Because you figure they like to over rely on open areas and then they don't spread out enough. So that's definitely something that me and Derek are going to wrestle with going into like the end of the month. It's one of the things that aren't even on the sheet, but it's something that we want to improve when it comes to like their tactical. And there's 2 spitters right there. So this is what I was talking about for the spitter AI, where they just like they don't understand they need to reposition, so they sit there and they'll hit you from weird spots. That they're not even, they're just hitting an object. They're not even hitting you. Okay, so we'll do one more wave, and then we're gonna cut it there and move to the Q&A. And I'm gonna give us a little bit more money. Build some more snipers, just to make it a big wave. Do you have an engineer I can steal? Can I steal one?
Buy
That
one. You can buy one.
You're so mean.
Yes, you can take
I
one.
understand. I do the same thing.
We don't love you, Rob.
I've had to share my engineers for many years. Right. Okay,
Hold on.
I'm sending one
Oh
over.
God, this is gonna be painful. I gotta hold the barracks long enough for it to not be blown up. Come on, reinforcements.
Oh, you ordered in a ton of units. Well, I'm
Yeah,
not
you-
giving you my engineer then. I see like your side of
Yeah, you're
things is
good.
not
Oh
secure.
God. Oh why Juggy? Why?
Yes, infected. Yes.
Ha! Screw you, Spitter.
No.
I have to say, those boomy boys are
Yeah.
just not
No, the
making it
booming
nice.
guys are
And
just. Yeah, they're kind of mean, bro.
it's an understatement for sure.
They're not kind of mean. They are mean. It's just you're mean.
Get that Spitter. Gotcha. Oh no, they're sniping my boys again. Let's send him up to the west. Send some there.
Here's a
Yeah.
question for you, Rob. Will the flamethrower units be able to sort of lock off an area
Can you explain that a little bit more?
for a limited
Like an
time?
ability?
So, yeah, like an ability to sort of lock off an area by just setting the entire place on fire. It's a limited
Like
time, so obviously,
So you're saying
like
like
30 seconds.
basically
before
having something akin to the flamethrower where they just kind of pre-target a location and saturate it with fire over like a like over a like it like yeah like it's
Suppress
suppressive
the
fire
fire,
ability
yeah.
basically.
a bit like that, yeah. I'll have to.
I kind of like that.
Well, think Helldivers. You know how I never aim at the enemies when in
Correct.
Helldivers when I've got a flamethrower.
Yeah,
I always
'cause
aim
it's
at the
just
ground.
aerial denial.
That's because I always play it cool. Yeah,
Let me
area
think about
denial.
that. Because
put a
one of the
pool
biggest
of
things for the
fire
new
on the
ability system was making it very, very simple and straightforward to do that kind of stuff. If we were to do it, it'd be in phase 2. We're working on the infantry alone. Because right now, we've kind of gone ahead and done the abilities for like, there's like 2 abilities technically we're not supposed to do right now. And it's the scientist DNA farming ability, and it's the radio man airstrike ability. Technically, those 2 are going to be held over until, hold on. Holy Jesus Christ.
There's a blob go
Yeah.
wave or something.
And a spitter wave.
Yeah, they do go after
Hold
you,
on.
Rob.
Hold on. I gotta redirect my units to the north. Flamethrower, get in there. Definitely gotta double the range of the flamethrower. And
I don't think doubling the range. I think
it's its
doubling
damage, its
will
range,
be better.
and it's because it's a continuous fire stream. So it's damage, range, AoE with a little bit. It's not nearly when that thing opens up. It needs to just be like death incarnate. But that's why when you do that, all the spitters are going to turn to the one flamethrower guy and deck him in the face. So you have to make sure you have snipers counter sniping to make sure that like they don't get, taken out too quickly.
Can you clear that like 20 stack of spitters on the roof?
I see them on my way. This will be the last wave too, so we can move on to the Q&A. Damn, they don't like you. Open them up, boys.
No, maybe the jealous.
Oh, I can't see him from this angle. I have to go around. Hold on. Yeah, there they are. Hold on. Got him. They're dead. They were hiding on the other side for some reason. Okay, well, we will wrap it up there and move on to the Q&A part. Krieg, you did the basing yet again. So good on you. I'm going to pull us... Oh, no, good job on the basing. I'm going to kick us back out to the main hub.
Yeah.
So that will wrap up that part. Let's do the Q&A section because we have approximately about 30 minutes left on the clock. So we'll take text, voice questions, anything you guys got on YouTube, on Discord, and we'll just kind of go from there. Anything right off the bat there, Ivar?
Silent Song was ready for this.
What do you mean?
It's respectful.
My God.
I'm like,
So what Silent Song has written was, hang on, let me get my reading. I've done my reading glasses. Okay, hang on. I'm sure you've heard this numerous times, but the RCS drones people are way too intrusive. Even if they were transparent, it'd be difficult not to notice them. I recommend something much smaller but still visible. I remember someone on the playtest recommended abilities for the drone. Sorry, I can't remember who said it. Some abilities I thought of could be a light infection detector. That would be amazing. When in short range of infected, it will ping the map with no sight required, and a flare to add light, as well as draw infected to that general area with a fair chance of something larger showing up.
Okay, so we'll take a question in parts. First part, the drone that is currently in is not going to be used in any shape, manner, or form. It is purely a placeholder. That is the scout drone from Legacy that was just put in just to establish a proof of concept and just get the ideas flowing from the community and from us abroad of like, okay, this is a good idea. We need to kind of just iron out the kinks and just keep pushing it. So what we want to do is, like we were saying, a smaller drone that's like half the size of a car, give or take. So that's one of the things that we're looking into right now. Is like roughly half the size or a quarter size of the car, like those little like drones that were flying around the East Coast for the United States people were complaining about. Something along those lines that has like a lighting system on the bottom of them. So it's also easier for operators and other drones to identify each other at higher altitudes. So that is something that we're looking into just to basically just kind of iron that out. I'm trying to see what else. And then for your other question about the drone abilities, we were talking about having it to where the drones could emit a flashlight. Aside from that, there wasn't really anything else that was really discussed for when it came to drone abilities besides the flashlight, because then it could be a coordination thing between operators and drones where they can like turn on a light and illuminate in the world. But that's more of like speculative, like when we get to that point, it'll be around phase 2 or phase 3, and we'll just kind of get a feel for the community and then address accordingly when it comes to that. Let's see, what else? The other question. So the infection detector is already going to be a thing based off of like we had the points of interest that would appear over units, and that's part of the UI card is making it to where like it's going to have that in Legacy, where the idea is that when you look at someone based off of a distance, it'll put like a little indicator over them, like in Red Dragon. So that way it's easier to notice who's friend and who's foe. So that is something that we're just going to do by default. And we don't want to tie to any kind of ability, because that was more of a quality of life change where you could set that in Legacy via the visual options. You'd be like, oh yeah, I want the infected to show up as enemy icons at certain heights, per se. So yeah, that's the way that we're handling that. But yeah, that's the general gist that we're going for there. Now, what other questions do we have? We have one on YouTube. When is the next update dropping? If we're talking about Phase 1 rebuild, that's going to be approximately in the next 2 or 3 weeks, going into the month, around the start of the Steam Summer Sale. So right now, we are working to basically, like I mentioned previously, to get the remainder of the Phase 1 wrapped up, get the UI situated, and get it into a format where anyone can just play the game and the bugs and the other things that you guys have seen, which aren't that crazy now. The game's playable. It's just a matter of just ironing out and hunting down those last bugs you guys saw later in the segment for the Trello ones, and then just getting the last mechanics and systems in. So that, I think it's doable for the next 2 or 3 weeks to get everything wrapped up in a nice bow. It might be a little tight, but we'll figure it out. Anything else we have for questions, Durvar or Krieg? Krieg, do you have any? I don't know. Do you guys have any questions to fill the air while we wait? Because I see someone writing.
I think the only thing. No, go on, Greg.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
I think the only thing that I would really ask a question about is when the time comes for vehicles to be added, right? Will we be able to run people over?
As the operators?
Yes.
Not your allies?
No, the allies. That I said people, not infected.
Like civil.
I'm just saying, like, if I've got an enemy dynamic faction attacking me, I would like to run them over with an ATV. Like, I'm just saying. You know, dire
Oh
times.
god, what am I enabling? War Crime Simulator 2025.
It's either that or, like,
Jesus
you know,
Christ. Yes.
a Hemet
I'll say
transport
yes,
full
I'll
of
say yes.
flamethrowers.
I mean, you
Can
figure
you do
it's like
it
what
now?
I've talked about previously, where when it comes to the operators, when we get to Phase 2 of doing the vehicles, a significant amount of time for Phase 2 is going to make it to where the vehicles can be possessed and driven like an arma to drive them around, run people over, and use the guns, or just drive other operators around, or RTS units around. So yeah, I mean that's going to be a thing. We had it in Legacy where before we cut the plug and on experimental, we had it to where the Abrams and the Bradleys and the MRSs, it used their mass to determine at what point does it stop moving. So then that way your vehicles could be turned, like the Humvee, the lighter class vehicles, could get into a situation where they just don't go anymore because you've ran over too many people. So it's one of those things where that's going to come back over, and that's going to be implemented for the operator and for the RTS. So if you get into an Abrams as an operator, you can pretty much go indefinitely, practically, because nothing's really stopping the Abrams. But you get the point where it's like, unless you run over a bunch of blow-up guys, then I just kind of say your prayers. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, like that's going to be a thing. It was a thing in Legacy. It'll be a thing here, and it'll be expanded to the operators. And then that way you get that tactical control of being able to, like, okay, I want to just run someone over right now. Why would I shoot them? I'll just back up into them. So, yeah, that's definitely going to be a thing. I mean, what we learned from Legacy can easily be translated over this time around to the new rebuild. Because that was one of the newer systems that we learned, and it was like really nice. Where we had like a system where we would like push the dead bodies and would ragdoll them, kind of similar to GTA, and kill them. So like it was actually really cool. Let's see, what else do we have for questions? Anything else we have from YouTube or from Discord for questions?
You got nothing on
Negative.
Discord? That'd be Fred. Raise your hands. We're happy to bring people in for vocal questions.
I guess that many people have questions today.
I know what's going on.
Yeah, I know. It's normally we're.
Oh, Silent Song said, I know this is way too early to ask, but for you and your team, what comes next after Cepheus protocol's completion and releases potentially new DLCs on your projects?
that's way outside the line of what we're doing right now, but we have some early ideas. It's definitely going to be, well, I mean, for me, the game isn't done until the campaign's done. That's going to be 2026, and then at that point, we would do a poll and figure out what other content people want from base Cepheus, and then at the same time, we'd probably start working on either a dinosaur game or like a Freedom Fighters inspired game in the future, long term. But that's like later down the line, a year or so from now. But like you figure, like there are ideas that we've had, but right now our biggest priority is getting Cepheus to a point where it's playable, it's feature complete, the co-op, the campaign, dynamic factions, the Pierce and Natalie are in. And then at that point, the campaign, and then at that point, that's when we look at like, okay, doing like New York as another pandemic, like that kind of stuff. We briefly have hit upon that in the past, but it's just one of those things where it's going to be an order of operations kind of spiel as we work through the next couple of months to year. No, not zombie dinos. I will throw you out the river or the window. God damn it.
Teletubbies, yeah.
You can put that in a mod.
Teletubbies.
Just put it
I'll
in
make
a
it
mod.
happen. I'll make it happen.
So YouTube, how are we doing on YouTube, guys? You guys lively? Everyone dead? Okay, so I assume there's not that many questions. People are so jaw dropped by I'm sure about
Oh, here we go.
about the race.
Eagles.
Okay, never mind. Then fuck. What's the question?
Eagles has said, I had a small question. If you guys thought about enabling the use of a second monitor as a permanent map view, like how they did in World and Conflict, most gamers have 2 monitors. That was brought up because people did mention, like I did as well, in regards to the Supreme Commander. If any of you play FAF, you can also do that with the map. What do you say
That is
to
one
that,
of the
Rob?
things where it's a stretch goal at this point. Me and Duravar have talked about this in the past, before it's even been brought up publicly. Because him and I were having a Supreme Commander fiasco. I think it was a couple of months ago. We were playing that like compulsively.
Yeah.
I think it was like 3 months ago. So yeah, no, that is something that I want to do, and it comes down to basically I have to just figure out the best way of implementing that in the Unreal Engine. I'm sure it's possible because it'd basically be some kind of split screen mode. But you have to render up a new renderer viewport. I don't have an answer for that right now, but it is something I want to do. I want to look into. It's a really good idea. It just comes down to right now. What are you gonna say?
Phoenix has a question. Will there be any other special infected except from the bloaters, spitters, and Greg?
Juggernaut.
I don't know who
Greg's
Greg is.
Leviathan.
Greg's the one.
Technically, there's about 2
Oh,
or 3
the
other special infected that are being like they're concepted, and we're waiting until the best time of doing it to get them modeled. It's the Chelsea's Elite Guard, Chimera Dog, and the Sperm Whale Transport Unit. Those are the things that are kind of like on the back burner right now, but they are stuff that we're looking at to basically get done in the future. Technically, we were thinking about making an infected builder unit, but that's kind of like on that's on the backlog right now, definitely with the rest of the other units. What else do you have for questions?
Could you play as infected?
The foundation is there. It comes down to sheer resources. I think I showed it off in the first 1 or 2 months of doing the rebuild. We considered it, but it'd be too overwhelming based off of we have 2 programmers, and typically StarCraft probably had about 2 or 3 dozen programmers working on their games if it was StarCraft 1. So it was one of those things where it was just like, okay, we need to just focus on the Cirque, get them playing right. The foundation is there. So like with probably 1 or 2 weeks of changes, we could facilitate that, but it's a new UI, its abilities, and then it's writing the AI for the Cirque. So it's not like complete just a flip-flop. There's some extra stuff that has to be done there. So I would say that co-op is kind of like the first step towards that, and then we need to kind of figure that out after co-op, going into the maybe even just after the campaign is like an auxiliary item in 1.5. Because right now 1.4 is world events, the campaign, Pierce and Natalie, and then a couple of smaller light items here and there that aren't announced yet. And then that might be something that we save for like 1.6 or something like that, or 1.3. Yeah. So it's one of those things where basically like it's on our list. It's something we've talked about, but it's just not in the cards for us to kind of attempt at this point. Because that'd be 1.
Uh,
Yeah, that'd be 1.5. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I know I was just going to throw a question at you. So when it comes to one like Efrain's been meticulously doing with the Alcatraz site, that would be the main base of operations for players. And then when we get the operators complete, would we be able to farm on horde maps in order to accelerate what we have access to in pandemic?
You mean
with our
like power level your operators?
Assuming that we have to complete tasks or have some sort of monetary value in order to get certain weapons or attachments and so forth.
So right now, our initial idea for operator progression, and this is going to be going through the gauntlet with you guys, right, sometime in the next week or two, is you get an operator, you make an operator on the hub. You name them, you choose their cosmetic. That operator now starts from level 0. Every new operator is level 0. And then you go into Pandemic or Horde or the standalone Horde missions or the arcade time trial missions, and you level them up. And those levels give you the capability of applying skill points and talent points. The talent points are for basically like health baseline increases, health, armor resistance, melee damage. The skill points are for like the medic abilities, the sniper abilities. Like you choose a couple of them. So the idea, and then you have a weapon progression system where you choose attachments, and based off of your weapon level. So right now we didn't really have an idea of having an in-game currency like in Black Ops 2. To have it to where you have to buy the weapon. It's more so once you accumulate that level, like in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 or 3, then you automatically get that weapon and you get that ability, and then from there it's a matter of leveling up that weapon. The abilities don't have a leveling system. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Phoenix asked, will you be able to play with randoms when the game is completed, for example, to create a lobby and have anyone
That's
join?
something that we need to figure out for a server browser. Absolutely. We'd like to avoid division level of matchmaking where you have to join a Discord and then you have to like join a room and you have an LFG group channel and all that stuff. We need to figure that out going into the UI card for the end of phase 1 of getting like a Project Zomboid Insurgency squad type of server browser and figure out the underlying tech, get rid of the console commands, get rid of the tactical bloat and make it to where it's more end user friendly. And that is definitely on our agenda for this month, is to get that figured out.
On an additive onto that, when you're talking about the leveling for the operators and such, in the far future when all of this is in, do you think that you potentially could have it in a similar fashion to Helldivers where it displays a person's level? So if their operator is like level 12, for example, will that be reflected on a player card?
Yes. So that's the biggest thing to keep in mind is that your operator is a persistent level forever. Until you. So there was a guy, a Patreon, I think, that was saying make a hardcore operator flag. I like that option, so I'll put that in there for the people that like to torture themselves. But one of the biggest things is that we wanted to have it to where when you make a new operator that is a brand new level 0, and if you level them up and then you bring them into anyone else's session, that level of those weapons, that progression, those skills, everything comes into that session. So like the way we had the pre-placed operators is being deleted. And that operators are going to be like, you join a game, Krieg. You have 3 operators. You have to buy those operators in a special window. They get pair dropped into the level. And it's the level that you had when you were playing offline, or it was the level that you had when you were playing with Durvar previously. So you continue where you left off, and they're a persistent hero through all of your battles and all your sessions. Does that make sense? Yes.
Yes, it does. Eagles has asked...
No, you're good.
Oh, sorry, were you not finished? Eagles has asked, any plans for voice chat in game, radio, or
Not
local?
now, but I know people want it from Arma or the other games right now. I just don't want to bite off more than I can chew for that right now because we still have to get in some other admin features for host. Like Maxim and other people have brought it up in the past where it's like, just being able to administrate your servers and whatnot for when you're hosting and listen server. So that is something that if it doesn't come in phase 1, we try and squeeze it in around phase 2 or phase 3 of just basically just kind of ironing out the kinks and just getting a little more quality of life stuff in there. Because right now we're relying on Discord for voice communication. We need to theoretically get a text chat in there regardless. Fuck, that's right. So yeah, we have to kind of get that in probably at the bare minimum, but it is something that we're discussing internally, and I don't have a timeline on that just yet, but it's on our list. What else do we have?
Phoenix. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead, Donovan.
Phoenix asks, how long will the campaign? How long will be the campaign? Also, will it only RTS or third-person POV? And will it be co-op?
I can't answer the thing on co-op yet. I can't answer the question about time length. We're roughly aiming for around 4 to 6 hours. We're aiming for roughly the third person and RTS elements for story points, like points in the book for more dramatic effect. I can't say anything more than that. If you read the book, you'll probably be able to come up with at least like 2 or 3 moments that would be better as a third person shooting moment over an RTS moment. Because you get to play it, you get to feel the atmosphere, you get to see the chaos of destruction. So that's something that me and Chris have talked about from the book to translate it over, because we figure the operator gives us the framework, the avenue of being able to take moments like the starting of the book, not technically the starting, but like Chelsea discovering the Voyager Dawn. You can actually play that with Chelsea stumbling on the Voyager Dawn as like a prologue, like that kind of stuff. Where it's like those are the kind of moments where it's not really even a spoiler, but it's kind of setting the tone and being able to kind of take you into the moment, and then theoretically we can just have it where you press B and you can play it as RTS, or you can play that moment in third person. I would imagine most people would want to play it as third person, but I know there's always going to be those people that are going to want to experience it in the legacy, like, vanilla experience. So those are things that I've talked about with the writer. We have the old game design docs. It's a matter of just when everything is said and done for us leaving 1.3, him and I have to sit down towards the end of the year and then look at everything that's changed and then come up with a new plan in terms of basically the game has evolved since last time we wrote out, like, the gameplay mechanics and the systems of how we were going to facilitate campaign. Because it's very evident based off of when we first released in 2020, the game is completely different. It's like night and day, and it's one of those things where like it's gonna adapt and change with that when we get to that point. Any other questions that we have for that?
Yeah, Crimson Wraith has asked, how long until the vehicle movement rework and new vehicles will be added to the non-experimental branch?
Look at the calendar. Okay. Okay. Technically, all of the airstrikes are done. All of the abilities for the scientists and for the radio that are done. Like the models are done. The animations are done. So the biggest thing that's going to make us it's UI work. It's going to be the doctrine's UI work. And that's going to probably be the slowest aspect of it, because airstrikes are simple. The passives are simple. We could probably knock out all the passives on the doctrine's tree in like a half a week through a week. And then it's just the airstrikes themselves. That's about a half a week, maybe a week. If everything goes to plan, we're planning on finishing phase 1 and getting that out to you in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that means around the 23rd through 27th is our goal to get it to the point where everyone can just play it. There's no more bullshit. and anyone could just opt in, join the game, and play it. And then around that time period, we'd start a new branch. The new branch is phase 2. We would start on that roughly around the time of the last week of June if everything goes to plan, maybe bleed over into July. And the idea would be is that branch would be where we effectively are working on what you're talking about. Now, to get to the vehicles, we're intentionally saving that to the end of the doctrine streak because that's be the most complicated. So we wanted to kind of keep a constant stream of content coming up to the point where we're like, okay, we need to work on the vehicles. We're going to do the ground vehicles together first, and then we're going to go do the helicopters and do those correctly. So if everything goes to plan, I would ideally say 1 to 2 weeks for the majority of the Cirque Doctrine streak. That's passive and airstrikes. Everything's done. Everything's been sitting on a repo for months. In a year in some cases for like the napalm airstrikes and all that. I mean, the white phosphorus. So ideally, if everything goes to plan, it's the 4th to the 11th for airstrikes and passives. And then sometime around the 11th to the 25th, we'd start on the vehicles. Within a week of starting the vehicles, we would probably, if within a week or a couple of days, we'd probably have something you guys can play for the vehicles. So again, I guess the idea would be is that we would try. Don't quote me on this. You guys you'll be able to see, like basically like everything we're doing week to week. Is that I would say around August, ideally. At some point, worst case scenario is when we would aim to have vehicles in the build in ship, seat, manner, or form for ground vehicles. I'm talking like the hover. I'm talking the JLTV, non-tracked vehicles because the non-tracks are simpler. And then the next phase would be doing like the Bradley, the MRS, the Abrams, and getting in their packages or weapon packages and all the other stuff, getting their abilities back in. So I would say August will probably be vehicle month. July would be airstrikes, logistics, doctrines tree, just base underlying implementation. And then August vehicles. And then I would probably say once we get the vehicles in, the pathfinding will be to the same level it was in experimental. So at that point, we're going to take it as far down the line as humanly possible of improving them and implementing them with the new formation system. So that would probably round out the rest of August going into September because we would need to like play test with you guys. Because we don't want to just put the vehicles in and then be like, here we go, guys. This is exactly what you had in experimental. We got to go. We're going to work on the helicopters now. So ideally, we'd put them in, put the first pass and get the formation system in and all the other stuff going into like August. And then now it's in your guys' hand to give us feedback, tell us what you like, tell us what you hate, and we just kind of keep working on the vehicles. Ideally, between me and Derek, we would have something done for the vehicles in 1 to 2 weeks after all of them are in baseline for their AI, their driving and their pathfinding from all the stuff that we've learned. And then we're talking either late August going into September, we'd start the helicopters and the naval units. With LCAC, LHA-6 being able to move, the LCAC being able to be built, the Little Bird, the Black Hawk, the VTOL, and technically the Airborne. Technically, depending on how things go, I might get my way and put in a jet for the LHA-6, but it kind of just depends on if we're behind or if we're ahead of schedule. Because I really want to put that in. I want to actually build out the air doctrine. So that just kind of depends on what the mood is and what the climate is. Because in my mind, I'm trying to be done with phase 2 by a Halloween. I'm trying to be done with pandemic by around, I would probably say, yeah, because you figure, I don't know. These are like basically like long stretch deadlines. I would say October for worst case for phase 2, and then December for phase 3, done, everything's out. And all along that, once Efrain finishes the current map, that is the horde map, him and Dimitri are just going to start making horde maps, the horde map of the month. And that way you guys get more content every month that's kind of like, as you're getting to the vehicles and the other stuff in phase 2 and phase 3, you're not going to get burnt out playing the same horde map every day for months on end. So the idea would be is that like going into June, maybe a little bit over into July, they would start another horde map. And then so that we have like 10 maps on the list. So they pick another one around June, August, they start another map. And then around August, September, they choose another map. And then around September, October, they do another map. That way you guys are getting about like 5. Our goal is to get you guys at least 5 horde maps that are like highly polished, fleshed out maps. Kind of deal is the general game plan while we're just kind of working through this rebuild. So does that answer your question? A little bit long-winded question, but it was a long-winded question answer because I mean there's a lot there to unpack. Yeah. So if you have any follow-ups, let me know. What else have we got for questions?
Well, thinking on that, and is that what Phoenix is saying as well? Because you covered quite a lot there about like it's a loose plan or loose guideline of how the phasing of everything. Will there be like a new or already established roadmap for this year?
Currently, the only one that exists is the Steam. The only one that I have is the Steam Forms one. There's no months or days or years on it. It's purely just this is what's in phase 1. This is what's in phase 2. This is on phase 3. Technically, I need to go onto the Notion website and I need to update 1.3 and redo the whole. Technically, I just need to get rid of 1.3 and just say the phase 1 rebuild. And then put in parentheses 1.3 or whatever, because no one even knows what that means anymore. And then I can do it there. So what I'll do is going on the Monday, I'll plan like an hour or two. And basically just redo our roadmap website. Because again, all we really have is the Steam Forms post that I stickied. And it just literally says what's in the phases, but there's no estimate per se. And obviously this is like long-winded, like worst case scenario timelines. Like ideally we're trying to wrap this up as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, but that's like the current trajectory of making sure each system gets enough time. It's planned out, it's fleshed out, it's play tested, and there's no bullshit in terms of like, oh, like they're just making the same mistakes, they're cutting corners here, they're not putting enough attention to detail here. Because like the reason why I say a good 2 or 3 months for Pandemic is the same reason why we get negative reviews on Steam, the same reason why we get people complaining on the Steam forums, people talking on Discord, is that the civilian evacuation is not fleshed out enough. The interaction with civilians is not fleshed out enough. You know, the infection spreading, that kind of stuff. So it's like little small things here and there that I want to take the time to address sequentially. Like the vehicle driving AI, like the helicopter driving AI, so I don't just ram into a fucking building sometimes when you're flying them like they do in Legacy and Experimental. So, yeah, that's the biggest thing to keep in mind is that, like, it's not per se exactly rebuilding what we made before, but it's taking that, learning from it, and doing it better. So that's why I'm kind of inflating those timelines to give us enough time to figure everything else out, figure it all out. You know, and experiment, and then have time for you guys to play it, kind of say. Anyway, yeah. What else do we have for questions?
I'm just looking now. Craig's gone for a work call. YouTube's empty. Discord. I don't see anything on Discord.
We're technically at the wrap-up
Not
period, so we
seeing
can. What do we have for clock? Technically, we have 4 minutes left on the clock. So, anything else that fill the time slot? I have coffee.
I can't think of anything else.
I forgot I had coffee. I went to go get it, and I talked so much this podcast in the beginning that I just put it down next to my thing, and I didn't drink any of it.
How dare you forget your coffee?
Technically, it's
important.
Shit, I'm running my sleeping schedule already. It's okay. I'm gonna play Last of Us 2 and beat that tonight. Okay. Yeah, coffee is what keeps me running at night. Running every day, all night. Okay. I'm surprised there's no questions on YouTube. YouTube is so quiet. It's just like being the silent keyboard warrior, just taking it all in, I guess. Okay, so then you figure Let me see if there's anything else that I can address. I don't know, Durvar, Creek, is there anything else you guys want to address or bring up?
The Creek's gone for
Okay,
a
well,
work
what I
call.
will mention is that one of the things that I want to do going into next week is we're going to have a playtest around Wednesday, Thursday for YouTube, on Discord. So I want to aim to have a playtest on the new Monterey Bay map around Wednesday. I need a couple of days to just kind of iron out, get the remaining weapons in for the Spec Ops. We'll have all the remaining abilities in for all the classes. And then at that point, it'll be a good snapshot of just class gameplay and the how the engineer builds off the sniper and vice versa and everyone else. So and on top of that, it'll give me enough time to kind of iron out some of the kinks that Forward and other people have found where when they stress the AI out, there are some situations where they don't do as efficient as I'd like. They kind of stagnate. So that'll give me a couple of days to address some of the issues that we found in our Discord playtesting. So just keep in mind about that. If you're on YouTube or you're watching in post, consider joining our Discord so that way you can get the playtester role. Because I'll be putting up an event and tagging it once I have a confirmation 24 hours before the actual event. I'll tag it in the general chat. I'll make an event. We'll probably have too many people to facilitate one game, so you might have to break up into 2 rooms with one dev in each room or a moderator in each room. Because the idea is I want to gather as much feedback and just how does it feel, what kind of bugs you're running into, how's the performance, that kind of fun stuff. So roughly around Wednesday of next week.
So before we wrap it up, we do have 2 new questions.
I just saw those,
on
yeah.
YouTube, and we do have another one.
So for God, we just went over there and asked this question there. Okay, options for weapons as primaries or an empty slot. So as it stands right now, we don't have any plans for having pistols as a primary weapon. Pistols are set off as a secondary. That could change. But for right now, your primary is your M14, your M107, your M4, your MP7, your UMP. And your secondary is your pistol, your Glock, your M9 Beretta, maybe even a saw-off shotgun, that kind of stuff. But that's the general vector we're going into. Now, one of the things that I do want to do that we haven't talked that much about is that one of the people on the team they're more melee oriented than I am. So one thing that I do want to do is that you've noticed that the operator does have a melee weapon. Is I'm going to pretty much just give Derek sole responsibility of fleshing out the melee mechanics in the game. So then that way the operator can use it, and then long term the RTS units can use it. It's not really on a line item, but it's one of those things that I want to try and sneak in going into the end of phase 1. Because the operator, the whole point of him was he's supposed to have 3 weapons. The primary weapon, the secondary weapon, and a melee weapon. Technically the abilities are auxiliary ones for their grenades or whatever abilities you choose. Whether they be offensive, defensive, or hybrid abilities, but you get the point. For Alexander's questions, we're going to have a public playtest around Wednesday. For... What's the other question he had? Oh, emblems. I don't have a... Emblems are going to be your Steam avatar or your avatar on your respective platform at this point. I don't really have too many ideas on emblems at this point. I know that it's going to probably be people that want to use special emblems. I know there was a discussion a couple weeks ago of using the colors for the operators that you choose in the options, the primary and the tertiary color, and using one of those as an emblem that appears on your units and your vehicles. I talked to Dimitri about that and Michael. For the characters, it's not possible at this time based off of how they were built, but it is possible for vehicles to brand the emblems of units that are in your control group based off of the control mode via a mask. So that might be something we can look into in the future. I know that was brought up a couple weeks ago in a podcast. So what I'm talking about is that when you play in co-op, you have an open control group and you have a locked control group. And when you're playing in locked control group, people can only control the units that they've purchased or been gifted, similar to Total War Shogun. So the idea would be is that in that mode, if you see a Humvee they would have a color associated on there, like somewhere on their thing, like an emblem, and then that way you could know, oh, it's blue, so that's Duravar, and then the red one is Krieg. So the idea would be, is that something that I've talked about with Dimitri? So when we re-implemented the camo system for the support packs that you guys buy on Steam, because that will be re-implemented, then that's something that we'll look into with him to see if we can kind of get that firing on all cylinders, because that'd be cool. For special emblems themselves, I don't know yet, because technically one of the line items that we're going to be putting in is that you'll be able to do like armor icons on the mini-map, where when you go to the tactical map, you'll be able to write text and do icons. We have all the icons made, and it's technically, it's on the UI card. So one of the things that Derek has to do going into finishing up phase 1 is that UI tab I showed on Trello earlier tonight. And one of those line items is doing the mini map and the tactical map, where you can like click on a spot and then like write text and put like a house icon or attack icon, and then associate text with it like an arma. So then that way you would know like, oh, that's this attack or whatever. So you don't have to have like the best articulate drawing skills from all the land. You can just use like a pre-formatted list of icons that we've had our concept artists put together. Okay, so on Alexander's questions for decor for buildings and all that for right now, I know that Terminal was like holding a pitchfork to me right now somewhere in the nether. But ultimately, right now, so technically, I'll give her a cookie. Technically, it is now possible to add more decorations after I made the change to the AI that I did a couple weeks ago for improving their combat, their targeting acquisition for like Heskos and the sandbags and all that. Because now they're able to accurately target the cones and the stop signs and all that. So now they're technically there. There's one more change I don't want to do, which is what Ford is. Ford exploits this every time we play the damn build in co-op. One of our moderators that we play with, where he'll basically build Heskos and a bunch of other stuff. And if you build it in just the right way and just the right spots, it causes their pathfinding to malfunction, and they start doing like a seizure where they run forwards, run back, and then sometimes stop. When I fix that, is technically the last hurdle that happened in Legacy, because you guys have seen this, where the Juggernaut will dance, or the Standard Infected will dance in front of your walls. They go left, they go right, and they suddenly figure out, I'm going to attack that wall. This is the same issue, and I've been hunting it down and fixing it as we go, as Ford and other people break the game. This is the last instance. So once I fix the last instance, then technically it's open season for Terminal to be able to add what you're talking about and what she's been advocating for on her master thread for almost the last year, is adding more decorative items into the game, and they won't be exploitative, because then the game would know and the AI would know what do they need to do to destroy said objects and not allow you to bug them out their pathfinding. So yeah. Okay, is there anything else before we wrap it up?
Not that I can think of. Is there any more questions? Any questions anywhere? My Discord's currently.
Okay, so we'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys so much for coming. We appreciate you guys sitting down and just kind of seeing what we're working on. If you're watching it in post, we appreciate it. We're slowly but surely chipping away at this. Like we always do, we'll keep you guys informed. Consider joining our Discord, so that way you're able to see things as they're coming to fruition. Like we did a poll earlier in the week that was about like the Javelin and just its usability in combat on Discord. It's just easy to do it on Discord. There's no mechanics in Steam for that per se. It's very simple and easy to gather feedback. But I know there is some criticism for us to use Steam forums a little bit more. When we get to, I'm gonna have to get a marketing person, I think, at that point to be able to manage both. But it's something that we're looking into, just so we're balancing the needle on both areas. People don't feel like they are forced to join Discord. Obviously, there will be some cases where it's just easier on Discord. Consider buying the book on Steam, on Amazon, the support packs, the Patreon, Discord supporter, YouTube supporter. They all allow you to get access to dev builds that some of the Patreon guys have been playing and helping us play test and whatnot here and there. So if you guys want to, feel free. Otherwise, just hang out for the playtest when we do them in the pings, or just keep ear to the ground for when I ping in the next couple of days, regardless. Again, a reminder, around Wednesday, Thursday, worst case, we're going to have a public playtest. I'll put a ping out 24 hours prior. And thank you guys so much for coming.